Ask you, as my colleague had started to talk a little bit about Syria, I believe that with the existence of Assad and that oppressive regime, it actually creates a cauldron for the recruiting of ISIS or the next generation of ISIS or the next al-Qaeda. And so I think staying engaged in Syria is essential to preventing that from happening in future generations. Mr. Secretary, from your perspective, what would be a successful outcome militarily and politically in Syria? And I know that's a difficult question because it's a very difficult conflict.
It is difficult, especially to do in a short time. Our mission statement is pretty clear, at least the near-term mission statement is pretty clear, right? It's to continue, from State Department's perspective, to continue to support the Secretary of Defense's efforts to defeat ISIS, to provide the diplomatic space for them to achieve that so they don't have threats around them. Second, to work to de-escalate the violence so that we can set some conditions for returnees. There have been a handful, right? We're seeing this a little bit in Iraq. We hope to be able to set conditions where we can achieve that in Syria, although there is an awful lot of work left to do. I can walk pocket by pocket in the north. I'll meet with my Turkish counterpart next week with the expectation that we will walk out of there with a plan for how we don't have two NATO partners at each other in that space. And in the southwest, we see what happens when Iran continues to advance, right? The Israelis are going to do what they need to do to defend themselves. And so there's an important diplomatic role there for us as well, to work with the handful of willing partners we have in Syria to create the conditions to first take down the level of violence so that the Syrian people have a chance. And I'll concede this is aspirational one for that seems difficult to see today, but have a chance to create conditions for themselves which aren't the desperate ones in which they've been living for these past too many years.
Thank you, and I know it's an issue you're passionate about, and I want to echo what Mr. Boyle said about the $200 million in aid. You answered that question, so I won't hammer on that, but I'm very concerned with what I've seen, including the freezing of $300,000 for the IIM, which is investigating war crimes. I think we have an obligation as a country to prosecute and push back against war crimes, and so I would hope that part of that review, that money is released.